A very warm welcome to Buy West Eat Best's 10th anniversary. And this is the programme member and industry event, so give yourselves a big round of applause. We've made it to 10. I'm James Lush from the ABC. It's a pleasure to be your MC this evening and to welcome you all to celebrate food in our state, past, present and future. This year, the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development's Buy West, Eat Best programme has reached the milestone. We are celebrating 10 years this month, and what we're going to do over the next sort of hour or so, or 45 minutes to an hour, is going to be celebrating. We're going to look back, we're going to enjoy the moments that have been, and look forward, see what's coming. Before I do anything, though, I think it's important that we start with the correct procedures and acknowledge the country in which we're gathered here this afternoon. So please give a very warm welcome to Wesley College Muditch Mob, who are going to acknowledge us to country. Please make them welcome. Thank you so much. A terrific way to start proceedings. Our acknowledgement to country done by Wesley College Muditch Mob. And in the Noongar language, Muditch means great, strong, or excellent. And it fits well with what Wesley College strives to achieve. And the programme is an important part of the college's culture and fosters a great pride within the Wesley community. It was a great way to start this evening. Thanks to them. All right, before we do anything, let's just get in the mood, shall we, and turn to the screens.
West Eat Best means being part of the community for us. We were involved since the start, and I thought it was a great idea actually to connect, or for people to connect with local produce, WA produce.
What I really love about Buy West Eat Best is that when you see that little sticker, whether it be on your fresh food or groceries in the supermarket, you know that it's actually grown and produced here in WA. So many products have this sticker on it, and when you know it's got this sticker, you know that it's a very good product.
I think it's really important to have a connection to the local growers, and I think that Buy West has actually supplied that and delivered that to us.
Didn't want to say anything, but that was the correct response. Good. Okay, thank you very much. So a lot's happened, and a lot still to come. I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Alannah McTiernan, MLC, the Minister for Regional Development, Agriculture and Food, and a Minister assisting the Minister for State Development, Jobs and Trade. Nigel Gracia, Deputy Director General, Industry and Economic Development with DPIRB. Liam O'Connell, Executive Director, Food Trade and Investment with DPIRB. Dr. Mark Sweetingham, Managing Director, Research, Development and Innovation. And tonight's panel, you'll see up here shortly, Sue Daubney, the Managing Director of Mount Bannister's Down, an inaugural member of Buy West Eat Best. Jim Trandos, Managing Director of Trandos Farms and another inaugural member. And also Mark McCrindle is here from McCrindle Research. They'll be up on the panel along with the Minister. And also Professor Karambut Siddique, a professor at the UWA Institute of Agriculture, and Sue Chance, wife of the late Honourable Kim Chance, MLC. Welcome to you and welcome to everybody, and thank you for being here this evening. So let's first of all get an overview of Buy West Eat Best programme. And let's get an overview over the years, how we've got to today, and potentially where we go from here. So I'd like to welcome Deborah Pett, Director, Food and Trade Industry Development, Trade and Investment, Industry and Economic Development, Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. Please make her welcome.
Thank you, James. Wow, what a fabulous gathering. The energy in the room is electric. But then again, that's what we expect when you bring food and beverage together in the one room. Fantastic. We're very pleased to have the Minister, the Honourable Alannah McTiernan, with us this evening as we acknowledge and celebrate a significant milestone, 10 years of Buy West Eat Best. You do realise that we are the envy of the nation, and that's not just for football. There is no other state in Australia that enjoys a statewide food labelling program, run by government and owned by industry. That is the true testament of the success of the program. We have a very parochial culture here in the West, which we need to continue to harness and leverage from to realise those opportunities. First, I'd like to recap on the journey of Buy West Eat Best, formally launched as a program under the Department of Agriculture and Food in 2008, following a petition to the West Australian newspaper in 2005, where in excess of 50,000 people demanded a more accurate labelling of food origin. This was on the back of the Birthmark program, which at the time had lost a bit of direction and focus. This was an amazingly powerful signal, given that this was before the advent of social media. Consumers are very vocal about knowing where their food comes from, and that trend is even stronger today. From these humble beginnings, the Buy West Eat Best logo has helped many complacent grocery shoppers choose local, and in turn has provided WA food businesses with a distinct trust mark to differentiate their products on retailers' shelves, which in today's world is proving to be more challenging than ever to navigate. Buy West Eat Best provides Western Australians and visitors to our state with a trusted state of origin food and beverage brand mark. The criteria and compliance requirements behind the distinctive trademark logo ensures credibility and assurance across the industry that the licensee's product is grown, farmed, or fished in Western Australia and processed and packaged right here in WA. Businesses register to use the logo if their products meet Western Australian content, food safety and quality assurance criteria, providing consumers to shop with confidence for a brand they can trust and look out for, a rally call they have to respond to. Since its launch, the Buy West Eat Best program has been busy working at the grassroots level, working with our members on retail promotions and public relation events, retail activations with supermarkets such as Farmer Jack's, Woolworths, Coles, IGA and Metcash, and activations at public forums like the Perth Raw Show. But our marketing activities have evolved from originally advertising and participation in third-party activities to high-profile signature events, launching of the digital and social media platforms, and extensive retail and partnership promotions to build the capacity and capability of WA food and beverage businesses while bridging a strong culture across the state's food supply chain. The program's development over the past 10 years can be credited to the Buy West Eat Best concept being fully embraced by consumers and the Western Australian food industry, from small producers right through to independents and major supermarket chains, restaurants and food service, and the program's ability to successfully attract co-investment and support from our members. Buy West Eat Best is raising awareness of the buy local food and beverage message with consumers, retailers, restaurants, food service providers, chefs and WA companies more broadly. It's building stronger linkages across the local food supply chains in Western Australia. Consumers directly benefit from being more aware of the range of locally grown, farmed, fished and processed produce, which is fresher, tastier and has lower food miles. Promoting regional WA destinations through our food and farm businesses and our agri-tourism, culinary tourism experiences, and supporting local is good for the economy and job creation and feeds directly back into our regional communities, growing employment and business expansion opportunities in the regions. Buy West Eat Best has a dynamic and committed team with commercial global marketing experience, delivering an annual calendar of domestic marketing activities for participation and co-investment across the industry. In 2017, Buy West Eat Best launched a new marketing campaign, Good Choice, which generated a conservative estimate of $1 million in co-investment from industry. Good Choice has focused on reinforcing and building consumer awareness and loyalty around the importance of buying local, with cues for freshness, quality and benefits to the WA economy. This year, the language of the program has broadened in recognition of the state's food and beverage providers and the introduction of activations that promote and create market pull to further highlight, provide linkages to members' agri and culinary tourism offerings in the regions. Now in its 10th year, the program has increased awareness of WA's abundant, beautiful, fresh food, the importance of buying local and shopping for seasonality, and the stories behind the producers, the retailers and the chefs to a far broader audience with the program, currently communicating almost daily with a highly engaged social media and digital consumer audience. As a result of those 10 years, we have a very strong Buy West Eat Best brand awareness, with the latest research showing over 71% of unprompted brand awareness amongst WA grocery buyers, and 9 in 10 of those buyers more likely to consider buying a product with that logo. When retailers applied the Buy West Eat Best logo to a shelf sticker in store, it generated a sales increase of 10%, with 1 in 4 consumers actively looking for the logo when grocery shopping. Membership has increased from 38 founding partners to just under 180, including major retailers, small growers, artisan producers, large-scale processors, restaurants, chefs, and food service providers. A growing and highly engaged social media following of over 25,000. Increased prominent co-branding and logo applications on packaging and dedicated in-store advertising and signage. A successful above-the-line advertising campaign showing those who have viewed that advertisement they recognise the advantage of buying local. There is no doubt that there is more and more interest and concern about the provenance of our food, and Buy West Eat Best is the only state-driven local labelling scheme that covers all food and beverages, from seafood, fruit and vegetables, meat, poultry, and packaged produce, juice, wine, and value-added grocery items from across Western Australia, providing critical connectivity and collaboration between producers and consumers, chefs and food service. It is vitally important that the Buy West Eat Best label ultimately reflects the needs of our most important stakeholder of all, the consumer, now and into the future. All WA agri-food businesses, regardless of their size and final destination on the global stage, can leverage from the Buy West Eat Best campaign by simply applying the logo, while even non-members benefit from the call to action for the consumers to seek out and purchase local produce. However, the integrity of the program gives consumers the confidence that the Buy West Eat Best logo is their guarantee that that product has been farmed, fished and produced and processed in Western Australia. With significant recent spend invested across TV, planning for the Good Choice campaign extension is currently underway, and the Buy West Eat Best message is being heavily promoted across a growing membership base. Accessing the Buy West Eat Best logo is the easiest, most economical and most impactful way to stand out from the crowd and ensure your provenance is rewarded. The program is in a unique and necessary position to bridge the needs of industry and policy makers, with Buy West Eat Best bringing together organisations in the interests of food integrity and promotion through regional development commissions, regional food councils, growers and producers with retailers, food service providers, chefs and restaurants. The support received from members throughout this month in recognition of the 10-year anniversary has been extraordinary. From the print media, retail displays and activations, fresh food fairs to dedicated dinners and menus showcasing seasonal and regional ingredients. There has never been a better time to support and celebrate WA produce. Thank you to everyone for supporting the Buy West Eat Best program and coming together this evening to celebrate its achievements and plan our future destiny. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Deb. Let's get the government's perspective on this. Please welcome the Minister who's here this evening for us.
Thank you, James. I was hoping the department is part of the government, but maybe I'm wrong here. Can I just give my acknowledge my good friend and Parliamentary Secretary Darren West. Darren, great that you're here today with us. I think our friends from Wesley have gone, but I think it was so fantastic that we had that introduction, and perhaps some of you aren't aware, but Kim's school was Wesley, and so Kim would have been very proud that we had boys from Wesley recognising that we're here on Noongar Budja. So fantastic touch. Can I acknowledge Nigel Brazier as the most senior person from the department here tonight, and all of the team from the Eat West Buy West Eat Best crew, and from the group that promote agribusiness generally. Can I also acknowledge that there's a number of people that have been in the department for a long time that were involved in this this project, and I think I even understand that someone actually even devised the logo, that it was internal to the department, that the brand agency, the agency that had been selected, hadn't perhaps come up with anything as innovative, and and it's great to see the resourcefulness of the department of that regard. My fellow panellist, Sue Daubney and Jim Trandos, and to Mark McCrindle of McCrindle Research, and Professor Siddiqui, and of course a very, very special welcome to Sue and Tom Chance. It's magnificent to see you here, because we know that this program was a very special love of my predecessor and great friend, Kim Chance, who was the Agricultural Minister when this great innovation was established. Now, Deb has really set out very comprehensively just what has been achieved over the last 10 years, and if I could just pick up and reiterate a couple of those points. If anything, in the last 10 years, the whole locavore movement has developed even greater momentum. So whilst the petition that Deb referred to in 2005 was driven to a large extent from a pro-Western Australia attitude, I think really in the time that has developed since then, since that time, we've developed a lot greater appreciation for the freshness of local food and the whole concept of travel miles or food miles, and the impact on carbon footprint. So that really has built on, I guess, a parochialism, and developed another and richer layer. And as Deb set out, the really important thing is that this brand has become a very trusted one, and people, whilst we know that there's all sorts of weird things, you can have product of Australia and the stuff actually come from New Zealand, or product of New Zealand and actually come from China, that the structures that have been put in place by our team, the integrity principles, ensure that people understand that this is the real deal. So, and I've been asked to particularly acknowledge here, I think, some former Director Generals. Ian Longson and Rob Delane, who are here with us tonight, Director Stuart Clark, and indeed the then Food Integrity Manager Patricia Elphinstone, and Project Officer Amelia de Groot. Now, I'm not sure which one designed the logo, but it's just really compliment you on the work, and you must be very proud of the fact that this has just continued to go from strength to strength. And I also want to thank all of those growers and retailers that participate in this, growers, retailers and wholesalers and processors that participate in this program, because it is it is really very, very important that we have industry buy-in, and people are prepared to put their hand up and put their hands in their pocket to contribute to a joint effort. And it's those that are prepared to do that that really take the state forward. And often people think, oh well, I won't do that. How much benefit will I get? But those the growers, the retailers, and the processors that have participated in this have been prepared to really show the collective action that we need to take state and our interest forward. So we really thank you for that. But of course, as we said, one of the special things that we are doing tonight is to really acknowledge the great role that Kim Chance played. I think I always feel a bit silly reading out stuff about Kim, because I think most people in this audience would absolutely know that he was a towering figure in agri-politics and agriculture generally for more than 40 years. He had a huge number of roles, starting as Shadow Minister for Primary Industry. Then he became Minister for Agricultural, Food, Forestry and Fisheries, Minister for the Midwest and the Wheat Belt, and Minister for the Great Southern in his years in government between 2001 and 2008. Now, when Kim left Parliament in 2009, he continued to have a very active role, both as an innovator himself, and his role in camel dairies is very innovative. But he was also, at the time of his really a very, very sad passing in February 2017, Kim was chair of the WA Fishing Industry Council and of the Australian Landcare Council. Very, very important and eminent role. And as Deb has and James have set out earlier, it was during that 2005 that the momentum started to build. And I do know the effort that Kim himself put into the development and the ensuring adequate funding of this campaign that would really help consumers identify food and beverage products that have been grown here in WA. So we think that it is an important opportunity for us to acknowledge this seminal role that Kim played in kicking this great project off by announcing the Buy West, Eat Best Kim Chance Fellowship Award. The award will provide financial assistance to the value of $10,000 to a PhD candidate at the University of Western Australia. It will be administered through UWA's Institute of Agriculture to support a doctoral candidate with the specific purpose of advancing agriculture in WA. Applications for the award will be invited from PhD candidates that are studying agricultural science and related areas at UWA. And we really see that this award will be available to support travel related to the recipient's research project, so that it will really enhance the recipient's experience and knowledge of their chosen areas. So I would like to invite Kim and Tom to come forward so we can present you with a copy of the Fellowship Award certificate. So great. Now, again, thanks to all of the team and for all of their work. Thank you to all that have been involved in it. And let's make sure this is a program that is even stronger in 10 years' time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. We are going to have the panel conversation in just a moment. Before that, we're going to have a short address from Mark McCrindle, who's here this evening. He's a social researcher and demographer with an international following. He's recognised as a leader in tracking emerging issues and researching social trends, as an award-winning social researcher and an engaging public speaker. Not only was Mark the media spokesperson for the 2016 Trolley Trends report produced for Woolworths, he's also spoken at many food and FMCG conferences. We're going to get his perspective on how he, as an outsider, will see this program and potentially what it means for the state going forward. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, James. Thank you, and good evening, and congratulations to all on 10 years of Buy West, Eat Best. And I want to talk a little bit about the present and the future consumer, but before we get there, let's think a little bit about the past. 10 years, a lot has changed in our society in that time. You know, 10 years ago, there were no iPads. The first iPhone had only just emerged. There was no Instagram. Twitter had just been launched. Facebook was only just going global. And in that 10 years, a whole generation of consumer has emerged, and we call them Generation Z. And you've got a little infographic that I think everyone's getting on the way out, where we've jammed a lot of information about this emerging consumer, and you've got some of that information on the screen behind you. And I just want to say a few things about this emerging consumer and why the Buy West Eat Best campaign is key for them and all future customers. Firstly, it's a generation that can be defined as digital and social in terms of what influences them. These devices, of course, are ubiquitous in their world. In fact, I was in a shopping centre recently and I saw a teenager wearing a t-shirt which read, "When I'm bored, I Google myself." So you can see just how technology invades all areas of their life. But because they are so digital and virtual, they're looking for the authentic and the real. We know with our research of them as consumers, they're looking for fresh. They are label readers. They're more sophisticated and informed about origin and background of products. They look for value in terms of price of product, but they look for values in terms of how they're purchasing can have an impact in a consumer perspective. And the Buy West Eat Best, of course, does all of that. They are global in outlook, but looking for local in terms of identity and connection, and another key feature of the program. And so in a global era, with a global mindset, having that local identity does matter to them. So they've got a place and a connection, and the food connection in that way is important as well. And of all places, you know, Perth has that global feel. You, I'm sure, know that if you define a major city as a city of 500,000 people or more, then this is the most isolated city on the planet. Further from the nearest 500,000 city than is the case between any other two cities on the planet. In fact, here we sit closer to two other national capitals than our own in terms of Jakarta, Indonesia, and Dili, East Timor. So global situation, and because of that, people look for that local connection. There's a sense where the isolation can create that sense of pride in culture and locale, and that is why the Buy West Eat Best campaign has been so successful here and is yet to be replicated in other parts of Australia. That global identity needs to be matched by a local connectivity. It's a generation that is visual. In terms of a world of information overload, they look to the icons and the pictures and the symbols to get cut through. And what a powerful logo and image it is, speaking volumes in just that image. I see that safety professionals have had to adapt for this new generation that is so digital and visual and social. I saw a sign recently for Generation Z, a safety sign. It simply read, "In case of fire, exit building before Instagramming about it." And so just a reminder to keep things safe, keep the priorities, but it's an Instagram world. And the visuals, particularly around food, are key. And what a powerful logo you have. So 3 words for the future as we look to what's next. We're in a world where we do need to future-proof things, where things do come to an end, where programs and initiatives, if they're not adapting to the world of change, it won't always remain relevant. This one is future-proof, the Buy West, Eat Best, because, and here are my 3 words, firstly, in this world of change, we need to be innovative. We need to keep on the cutting edge. We need to make sure that we have a unique aspect to what we do and communicate. And as Deb was highlighting, what a unique campaign this has been, still a national first, 10 years on in Australia, not replicated elsewhere. We need to be responsive to those customer needs because the consumer is more empowered with access to more information. And if we can be responsive to their needs and indeed demands, then we will remain relevant to them. And the whole origin of the campaign, as we saw in the video and Deb mentioned, came through being responsive to the consumer demands through that petition. And what a powerful story, history, origin this campaign has. And so if we continue to innovate and adapt and therefore remain relevant or responsive to the consumer, it will speak their language. This emerging consumer is harder to connect with than any other one. I was running a focus group recently of young people around financial products, around banking and the like, and they're all completely disengaged with all the brochures and marketing pushed their way. About an hour into the discussion, one young fellow, I think 20 or 21 years of age, he spoke up, all again very bored, and he finally said, "Look, mate," he said, "it's not that we don't care on purpose." He said, "It's just that we don't care." And thought he summed it up pretty eloquently. If we want them to care, we've got to speak their language, and this certainly does that. And my 3rd word, in addition to being innovative and responsive, we've got to be collaborative. That's where the power lies, when groups and organisations and the industry gets together to find relevant solutions. And what a collaborative project the Buy West, Eat Best has been. All of the industry, businesses of all sizes, the growers and the retailers, the supply chain together coming along with government and regulators to be part of this collaborative campaign. And when we are innovative and responsive and collaborative, I think we're future-proofed and ready for those ever-changing consumers. I thought I would leave some final words for you from a philosopher who burst on the scene 20 years ago. Some of us Gen Xers will remember him. His name was Ferris Bueller, and he had a good perspective on life. And he said, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. So keep looking around, being innovative, responsive and collaborative, and I'm sure the Buy West, Eat Best campaign will be successful for decades to come. Congratulations again, and I wish you all the best in your future.
Thank you very much, Mark. You're going to join the panel, as are Jim and Sue and the Minister as well. Please, if you can just come up here, we're going to have a little chat about things. And let's start by talking about 10 years ago. We've heard mention the petition that went round. Maybe, Jim, you're nearest to me. Can you talk about what pre this Buy West, Eat Best world was like, when there was that desire amongst the likes of you and others to say, we've got to do something about this. You know, we've got to put WA on the map. How did the petition come about? How did you gather the troops? What happened?
I remember that. Am I on?
Yep.
I remember it was the only time I'd ever called the West Australian myself.
Right.
Because there was all these things floating around, all these labelling issues, and I thought to myself, you know what, that's just crap. So I rang the West Australian and said, you know, if you really want to come and see what West Australia is all about, come to my farm. And I've got a picture of me throwing some dirt up in a cornfield. So it was very important to me, and it was very important to identify the difference. So
how did you?
The world was plagued
Well, it was obviously it was a very different world. I mean, the reason you're here is to talk about the world of going from suppliers to markets in your world, and you've got a huge footprint across the state. But how did you connect with others who maybe shared that drive, that desire to change?
Well, like I said to you last night on the radio, we're a bit selfish, and we want to keep it in the state, and we want to keep it, we want to share it amongst ourselves as an industry. And we knew we needed to be identified. We needed to connect with the public because we knew, being a West Australian, it's important to buy produce from Western Australia. And it was a no-brainer for me. I was a bit angry about it, to be honest.
It's a good driver.
Don't ask me any trick questions.
No. Sue, from Bannister Downs' perspective, you're I suppose, masters now of the supply chain side of things. But before then, 10 years ago, you were a very different business. How has it had an impact on your business? How has it changed things?
Am I?
Yep, keep going.
10 years ago, we were sort of 2.5 years into starting our business, so I was up to my ears in milk and herding cats, and we were worried about trying to employ people, train people, pay wages. You know that you need to sell product, but you don't have the time or the money to invest in promotional activities. So for me, I signed up straight away because Buy West Eat Best was an opportunity to be part of a collective group of people with some leadership that knew how to organise advertising, but most importantly, it was something we could afford to do.
Right.
And to be part of a quality advertising program, which was critical at that time because we couldn't have gone out on our own and afforded it or done it well.
Mark alluded to the importance of collaboration. When you were collaborating, were you very conscious of the people that were coming together, that were having the same sort of high standards that you were trying to put out?
Definitely. The West Australian processors and producers that got on board with this program are all leaders and progressive and seeking to shout out about the quality of their products.
Minister, what's it done, do you think, for the state? We're just hearing that this is the only state that does it, for goodness sake. So why has it been so important for the state and putting it out there to external audiences?
Well, I think it's important to underpin the critical mass for our. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, something like.
Sorry, I think it's important really to establish a critical mass for so much of our industry. I mean, we are a long way from other markets, and we want to make sure that we've got a really strong, viable industry here, so people that are producing here can get a sufficient scale by really capturing most of our local market. I mean, we do a lot of work in export, obviously, but it's really important that we have this home market as well to provide that scale for our industry and for our emerging processing industry.
Do the other states look at what we're doing and say we should be doing the same?
Well, I think this is one, and I think, Mark, you might have referenced this, that, sometimes there are actually some advantages from isolation, and sort of it's a bit harder to do Victoria, New South Wales, I mean, all the borders, they all merge, but here, I think it's easier, and I also think that there is a stronger identity here and a stronger sense that people feel that they need to support our local industry for it to thrive, that it's not just the GST that has the odds stacked against us. So I think that's that's a deeper held understanding here and more soundly based actually in Western Australia.
Mark, how do you think it plays out? Obviously, from an internal perspective, people are very proud of being West Australian and want to support West Australia. How do you think it plays out to an overseas market?
Well, we used to talk about, when everyone's just focused on their local as being parochial, but that's not how it's viewed these days. It's community mindedness. It's creating viability within a local economy or a state economy. And that's what there's a positive value in buying and supporting local these days. And of course, there are benefits environmentally with food miles and consumers tune in a little bit to to the economic benefits of buying local, but it's even more than that. It's the social value around supporting those that are near to them or within their state, and that some of those values we do see them in other areas of the world as well. But as has been said, a state like WA has more of that focus than the blurriness on the East Coast, where they don't have that sense of identity. There's a lot more transfer of people in terms of where they've come from and going to. But here you've got more of that sense of groundedness and local identity.
What would you say would be a real distinct advantage for us here in Western Australia, given that we have a huge population north of us and a lot of population growth, a lot of pollution, and yet here in Western Australia, everything about it is spacious, it's green, there is this opportunity for, I suppose, something completely different. How could we take this to the next level from your perspective?
Totally. I mean, the power of a brand like West Australia in terms of that global audience is very strong. And you see it in so many ways around food with other areas. I mean, Margaret River, or going broader across Australia, the Yarra Valley or the Hunter Valley. There's great power in those brands. There's a quality, there's a price benefit, there's a perception of the types of foods that areas will specialise in. And Western Australia as a brand in itself is very strong perception-wise internationally. So I think it's not only just a local purchasing opportunity, but an export opportunity long-term as well.
Jim, we were talking yesterday on the radio about the little sticker and the fact that your products all go off with this sticker and the logo, and everyone is aware of it. It's 10 years now. Do you think people become potentially almost blasé about it because we've seen it so much? And how do you keep that interest and drive it to the next level, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think provenance is a global thing at the moment. Everyone's looking for it. I think it's naturally occurred. So I think the logo is a simple one for the Buy West Eat Best logo is simple for the person that's purchasing the product. I think it's, like Mark said, it's a global thing. Everybody wants to be connected as closely as they can to as close as they can. So I think, and the consumer is more aware of everything than ever now. So they're aware of what they're buying, and now with a logo on it or with a label on it, they know where they're buying it from.
Sue, are you noticing that people are really curious about the story that goes with the location? You have a very different looking product compared to all the others, so it does stand out, which is terrific. But is there a desire to know more about, if you like, the cows that are providing this milk?
We would receive at least one email a week about how do we raise our calves? Do we give hormones to our cows? Do our cows get to go in the paddock? How much grass do they get? And each one, when we respond to it, it's like we're really pleased that you care. If these consumers are caring what they're putting in their mouth, that is a positive, because that's going to advantage us in Western Australia, the way I see it.
But how do you differentiate that, given the fact that the public are often, in the shops, they'll go for cheapest, select, and how do you make them care enough?
It won't be everyone. It won't be everyone. People buy, in my opinion, either on price or because they like something. If they like something, they've got a deeper level of their purchasing rationale, and that's the consumer that we as a business want to make everything available for, that they want to know and understand. The customer that just buys on price, they'll never be our customer.
No, okay, which is good. You've got to play to your strengths. You've seen the growth already with the amount of people who are now on board, all the producers, growers. How many more could be brought into the fold? Yeah.
I'm probably not the best person to ask. I'm really 400 kilometres away and don't really know what's going on in the world.
Jim, do you know? I mean, have we got everyone now? Is there no one missing?
But my comment last night was, I challenge anybody to tell me where more things are produced than Western Australia in the world.
Yeah.
Never mind a country, a state. So there's a lot that will come on because they'll see the value in it. So, but I challenge anybody to come up to me and say, like Chile can do that. But I still reckon West Australia can do more.
Well, as you say, the difference between north and south is extraordinary. Minister, in terms of this state, which is known for its mining, amongst other things, but in particular, it's known as a mining state, how can agriculture start to challenge it and become a really prominent player?
Oh, look, I mean, I think we have to be realistic about scale, and whilst agriculture is the second biggest industry after resources, it's a lot smaller, and we are going to be seeing a lot more resources expanding throughout the state. But people, at the end of the day, we are human beings. We need to eat. Food is a really important part of our culture. Food is very much an important part of our lifestyle. People want to see, they want to have the landscape preserved. So even if we had, as we've seen in countries like Germany and France, even where there has been, massive other industries, people still have a great desire to see a thriving agricultural industry, because it is what we want as human beings. So I think it's really important. One of the things, I was talking to Jim and Sue about this beforehand, I think one of our challenges for a lot of our industry is actually attracting people to live in the regions. That one of the greatest difficulties that people like Jim and Sue have, and I get this from growers and processors all the time, is how can we get more people to come and live and take up the jobs, and people from, whether it's the unskilled labour right up to people that are very skilled in IT and finance and marketing. And I think we as a department, and I'm really been encouraging Nigel and the team here to really work on this, that we've got to actually start a program about selling life in regional Western Australia. Like, lots of people have never done it because they've been in the city for 4 or 5 generations, or at least 3 generations. They haven't got, actually, probably never even thought about going to live in the regions. And we've got to get out there and tell that positive story about how good it is to go and live in the regions and to be engaged in this industry that is so important to our human experience.
That's a really good point. Jim and Sue, just the other members and yourselves, you are a certain size, you're well established, but when new members come in, some are little niche players. Do you see how being a part of the collaborative just enhances their business? Have you noticed that?
I like what Sue said when she said she could get in an entry level, so she could get in and differentiate her product cheaply. And I think that's what you talked about, the collaboration. I still think it's a cheap program for an entry level producer. So I think it's great.
Affordable.
There's a big difference. Nothing in West Australia is that cheap. It is making a difference. Where to from here? Where would you like to say? We alluded to the 10 years from now. The Minister said, 10 years from now we'll be doing something else. Where do you think it could go? Jim, as a grower, what do you think?
Of course, I keep bragging about how good we are in West Australia. I'd like to see it on everything. I'd like to encourage all producers to get it on, to get it on their produce, and really get the community behind it as well, the consumer behind it, because I just think it's a wonderful program.
Is there an appetite, do you think, from the consumer for that?
100%.
Yeah, it's that, isn't it?
And we're going to add 10% on everything as well.
Whenever I've done anything on the radio talking about this, there is an amazing response saying, why aren't we doing it? We should be doing it more, because people, I think, are willing to do that. So what about your view in 10 years from now?
The other thing that I would say too is that the program can grow with you, you can grow with it. So while at entry level, it's your first toe in the water opportunity for affordable promotion, as you grow larger, you can be involved in bigger opportunities and enjoy the experience of the Buy West Eat Best team, because they're totally focused on what can we do to promote this while we're busy running our businesses, but we can tap into this great resource and at whatever level. As Jim said, you start at entry level, but that can grow with the program and with the growth of your business.
Final word for you, Mark. You've seen what we've done so far. It's exciting hearing from the growers who talk about this, but What do you sense now in terms of trends? What is going to happen in the next 10 years? There's a real suggestion that we are going to desire and demand more local for all sorts of economic and environmental reasons.
Totally. You know, the power of story now when it comes to our purchasing decisions is strong, and that little logo tells a story. It starts a story. And so you were sharing how the customer is asking questions about the background and the story of how it's all grown, and that's increasingly there. Minister, you were talking about food for lifestyle reasons, and that's a key point as well. You know, it's not just nutrition, it's not just food security, it's lifestyle. Food is something about connectivity, and we're blessed to be in a country like this where it's not just food to get enough calories to survive, but it's food as part of a central way of our interacting and our social experience. So I think that in that regard, it's the story, it's the brand, it's the opportunity, but we're increasingly time poor. So those supermarket decisions, as we're rushing through with the trolley, we've got to have those little signals, those little mini stories that can trigger us towards a better purchasing option in a short time frame. And again, the logo does that quite powerfully. So I think it's well set, but they would be some of the features of the future consumer.
Fantastic. What a great summary from all of you, Sue, Mark, Jim, and the Minister. Thank you very much.